Welcome to the Government News Brief for Thursday, December 22nd, 2016. In the news, government to go ahead with Kettle Secondary School repair, corrective works on the controversial High Street building to commence soon, and Minister Scott expresses regret for statements made about FITOG and GTUC. Stay tuned as we bring you these and other stories. Thank you for staying with us. I am Renetta LaFleur. Now for the details. Government to go ahead with the Kettle Secondary School repair. The sum of $61.7 million has been provided in the budget 2017 to repair the defects to the school. Here is more.
The money for the school is covered under a provision of $465.87 million under the Ministry of Education's Capital Secondary Education Delivery 2017 work program. This was disclosed by Minister within the Ministry of Education, Nicolette Henry, to the House.
The first school would be rehabilitation of the ground at North Rumville Secondary School. That's in Region 4 here in Georgetown, and it's to the tune of $6.5 million. We also have, as you know, the Kettle Secondary School, which is under this, and we're looking at $61.7. We also will be looking at construction of a cafeteria and a multi-purpose complex at Queens College in Region 4, and that's $34.8. There is also extension of Bishop's High School in Region 4, $4.3.
Government had earlier indicated that it will go ahead with facilitating the school building's rehabilitation. Minister of Natural Resources Raphael Trotman, at a recent post-cabinet briefing, had stated that facilitating the safety and access to education to the Region 8 students awaiting the use of the building is paramount to government.
I think ultimately the well-being and welfare of children and their right to an education must be paramount. So I believe that the Minister of Public Infrastructure is going to be finding ways to do some repairs to the building so that it can be safely and efficiently occupied by the students.
Minister Trotman also explained that government is still determining how to recover damages from the contractor and that the Minister of Legal Affairs and Attorney General Basil Williams was leading this exercise. Defending the Ministry of Education's 2017 budget in the House, Minister Henry, however, said that the company had indicated its interest in effecting the repairs needed on the school.
Actually, this contract was stopped based on the poor quality of work that was being done for this project, and before it could have gotten to the stage where we get into the conclusion and retention phase, we had to stop it prior to that. As I pointed out a few minutes ago, this is currently engaged in the attention of the legal minds. Because notwithstanding that the matter is engaged in the minds of the legal persons, I have been in receipt of a correspondence from the contractor, the contracting firm CARES, and they've indicated an interest in undertaking the work. So notwithstanding all the sensational issues that you spoke about, there are still some cordial relations that exist, and we do not anticipate any danger.
3 years ago, the previous administration paid $1 billion to Caris Engineering Incorporated for the construction of the school, but the shoddy work done by the contractor has made the building unsafe for occupation. Shanti Gobaran with this Government News Brief.
Corrective works on the controversial High Street building are expected to begin early 2017. Delicia Haynes has the details.
Minister of Social Protection Valdo Lawrence has announced that $200 million will go towards correcting faults to the High Street building. The Ministry of Social Protection plans to occupy this building when the rectifications are completed. The minister explains.
This will just be for one building, that is the High Street building. And this $200 million will be for preparation of plans, drawings, corrections to the defective work that was done, so that we can move on to get the building in readiness for the ministry.
Minister Lawrence told the Parliament Committee of Supply while defending capital expenditures allocated to her ministry, that the money to be spent on this building will eventually improve the administrative functions of the Social Protection Ministry.
We are anxious to get into this building, but with this allocation, we are hoping that by the first week in January, we can put out our ads and so in the newspapers, and hopefully that within the first half of the year, that all of these works that we have listed can be completed.
The former Guyana Broadcasting Corporation GBC building was torn down and replaced by the current building. The structure was originally earmarked for the Ministry of Human Services, which is now the Ministry of Social Protection. But it was later announced that the Ministry of Natural Resources, created under the previous administration, would be in charge of the new building. For the Government News Brief, I am Delicia Haynes.
Minister with responsibility for Labour, Keith Scott, has expressed regret for statements he made during the consideration of the budget estimates about FITOG and GTUC. Here is more. The minister today accepted responsibility for his statement. He says he will continue to be dedicated to his services towards trade unions.
I made the mistake. I am the person solely responsible for it being made, and I have not addressed my mind to any idea of it being the source of any previous sense of feelings. While I know it's unfortunate to have said so, at the same time, as I said about the $1 million good, I have always been committed to trade union unity, trade union principles, and the principles of brotherhood.
Minister Scott notes that since his assumption to office, he has been pursuing the goals of trade union unity even among unrecognized unions. He says the records would show that he has been successful thus far.
We have had issues with the people that they have represented. They have had issues with the employers, and whenever we have been invited to participate, we try to, in the first instance, to studiously avoid appearing to be interfering. We try to, even though we do have the power to get into, with or without invitation, to any dispute that exists among trade unions and employers.
Additionally, Minister Scott points out that those employees have not been left behind. He explains that he has fought effortlessly to provide a balance between employees and their employers, though industrial relations may take time.
In terms of worker representation, we have always called in the union. In terms of worker success, workers have always, in spite of the fact that we have heard that there have been complaints, and there will always be complaints, and in some cases there will even be valid complaints. We have heard complaints against our labor officers, we have heard complaints against the minister, and we have heard complaints against senior officers. In the case of the minister, I can say without fear of contradiction that there have never been any employer or any employee who has ever come to this ministry who has been unable to see me.
Minister Scott says that he will continue to take his responsibilities seriously. The e-governance program has resulted in the linking of 22 ministries in 2016. This is part of the Ministry of Public Telecommunications' objective to make internet connectivity available to all citizens. Gabriela Patram tells us more.
And those ministries are the Ministry of Natural Resources, Agriculture, CHPA, Public Infrastructure, Legal Affairs, GRA, GPHC, Parliament, the Ministry of Business, the Police Headquarters, Youth and Sport in terms of the Ministry of Education Annex, Ministry of Finance, Education, Public Security.
Those were some of the ministries that the Ministry of Public Telecommunications is connecting with the fiber optic e-government network. The objective is to improve the quality of social services, to fight crime, to boost the standard of education, to promote digital literacy, and provide an ICT path. Other ministries that are linked to the network include
Foreign Affairs, Public Health, Ministry of the Presidency, Public Telecommunications, Indigenous Peoples Affairs, Social Protection, Communities, Public Service Ministry, Citizen Security Program, and the Arthur Chang Convention Center.
Minister Yu is responding to a question by opposition Member of Parliament Joseph Hamilton during the consideration of the budget estimates as to when the other ministries will be added to the network, said this will be done in 2017. Additionally, the phase that will cater for citizens' interaction with agencies will also be implemented in 2017.
The interaction with the citizens, that is actually going to be done in 2017, and some of the things I mentioned previously, like the app that allows the citizens to bring complaints and suggestions and to government agencies. That was just one of the series of things. But 2017 is the time that we would be able to start implementing these things.
The multi-million-dollar e-governance project is aimed at creating a network linking government and other state agencies throughout the country. For the Government News Brief, I'm Gabriela Patram.
The Indigenous Peoples Affairs Ministry is working on a management plan to help communities better execute their community development projects. Find out more from Isaiah Braffett.
For the year 2016, there were 157 communities scoping missions. 148 of those communities signed capital grant agreements with the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP. 104 of these communities received a total of $245 million for the first phase of their project. 35 communities have thus far moved on to the second phase and received a total of $76 million. However, Minister of Indigenous Peoples Affairs Sidney Allicock says that a number of communities are encountering challenges in executing their projects. The minister says that in crafting the management plan, the North Rupununi District Development Board will pilot the project.
We've had a really good development here too, as using the NRDDB, the North Rupununi District Development Board, working towards getting a model, a management model, because having to spend so much funding, sometimes it is difficult to manage when you're doing it individually. So you have a cluster, we call them the clusters, like the NRDD, would have like 18 communities, and they're doing projects.
According to Minister Allicock, this will help to maximize the use of resources. Minister Allicock pointed out that along with the UNDP, the process has started. Groundwork was done on October 24 and 25.
If we could have all these systems in place, it would help us to better prepare, well, the communities will be better prepared to do the management of their businesses. The community generally have better accountability. They would be able to trace and report more accurately the spendings or development generally.
This will be able to give the ministry an idea on the progress of the projects or whether there is need for intervention by the ministry to better their situation. The minister says the management plan will help the village councillors to be more confident in their operations. Isaiah Braffett for the Government News Brief.
New simulator for Guyana Civil Aviation Authority, GCAA, to boost capacity as successful air traffic control graduates return to serve. Here are the details.
Director for Air Navigation Services, Rickford Samaru, says the GCAA was granted government's approval for the purchase of a new state-of-the-art simulator. Samaru explains that this new equipment is to perform local training for staff to make the GCAA more efficient.
Our students will also have a chance to practice on, and while we do local training, we will have our own simulator to simulate the environment and to do training not only for initial students but for recurrent training, for testing of new procedures, developments in the airspace. We will be able to do all of that through a simulator.
The director notes that Air Navigation Services is in the process of implementing automatic dependent surveillance systems in 4 remote sites in the country. Samaru says this will complement the development of human capacity in 2017.
Our focus for next year will be heavily on training and specializing in skills to move the air traffic management system forward. ICAO has projected that in the next 50 years, air traffic throughout the world will double. So we want to be prepared to handle the capacity of traffic that will transit Guyana's airspace and in the airports and so on.
Meanwhile, the 8 trainee air traffic control officers who were undergoing training in Jamaica have returned successfully as full-fledged air traffic controllers. Their return will ease the constraints at the Temeri and Ogle control towers. Director General GCAA Egberg Field commends the students for their exceptional performance.
I wish to personally congratulate you for the good work you have done and look forward to your full participation in this family as we move this authority to better and higher skies.
I'm Neola Damon for Government News Brief.
That has brought us to the end of today's edition of the Government News Brief. The details of these and other stories can be found on GINA's website. We encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can be informed as the news unfolds. Join us tomorrow for another edition of the Government News Brief. I am Renetta LaFleur. Thank you for watching.